Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tracing a history that's just full of these incredible twists and turns. We're going into the, well, seemingly paradoxical relationship between Israel and Iran. Fierce adversaries now, but not that long ago, actually, strategic allies. Yeah, our mission today is really to get beyond the sort of day-to-day headlines. We want to unravel this complex, really compelling timeline. We've got a stack of sources you've shared, and we'll follow this relationship from, well, a surprisingly close friendship, believe it or not, to the escalating hostility we see today, highlighting those key moments, those big shifts. Okay, let's get started. So diving right in, the material makes something clear almost immediately, and it's pretty counterintuitive. Before 1979, Iran and Israel actually had this remarkably strong strategic relationship.
It's difficult to square with today, isn't it?
Totally. But under the Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, Iran was, one of only a handful of Muslim-majority countries to have de facto recognition of Israel.
And the sources really point to significant collaboration, deep collaboration.
Yeah, exactly. Like Project Flower, this joint missile development program, Iran wanting to boost its military reach using Israeli tech. And get this, during the 1973 oil embargo, when Arab nations were trying to use oil as a weapon against Israel's allies.
Right, a major political move.
Iran, which, remember, isn't an Arab nation, Iran kept selling oil to Israel, deliberately breaking ranks.
Which really underscored their alignment at the time, their independence from that broader Arab consensus.
Absolutely. So through the 60s and 70s, you had this thriving economic and military cooperation, intelligence sharing, trade deals, the works.
And what's really key to understanding this initial phase is that it wasn't about, shared culture or ideology. Not at all.
Pure pragmatism.
Pure geopolitical calculus. It was textbook enemy of my enemy. Both nations sort of quietly agreeing, look, let's prop each other up against this common threat, which back then was primarily rising Arab nationalism.
Okay.
It was a cold, calculated bet. And it worked, well, until the entire game changed.
Right, because then the story just takes this incredibly sharp turn, this strong, pragmatic relationship. It just collapses dramatically. 1979, the Islamic Revolution.
Yeah, total upheaval.
The Shah is overthrown, Ayatollah Khomeini rises to power, and it's just a completely new era, an era of, well, ideological hatred, basically.
Instantly. Khomeini severed all diplomatic ties. Full stop.
Launched these scathing attacks on Zionism, famously labeled Israel the little Satan, right? Directly linking it to his whole anti-Western thing.
Exactly. And Iran kicked out the Israeli diplomats, shut down the embassy.
And tellingly replaced it with the PLO mission, the Palestinian Liberation Organization.
A very symbolic move.
Yeah. And the sources you shared, they indicate this new regime didn't just dislike Israel, it fundamentally baked opposition to Israel right into its core ideology, into its foreign policy.
It became foundational, promoting this idea of pan-Islamic resistance against Zionism.
So this ideological earthquake, it just completely reshaped Iran's foreign policy, flipped it from pragmatism to confrontation based on these, deeply held religious and revolutionary ideas.
And if you connect the dots, this shift immediately laid the groundwork for Iran's strategy in the coming decades, backing anti-Israel militant groups.
Yeah.
It set a whole new course for the region.
Okay, but then, and this is where it gets really paradoxical,
Right.
Despite this new, deep ideological opposition, you get this strange chapter during the Iran-Iraq War. That's 1980 to 88.
Right, a brutal, long war.
And what's surprising, Israel covertly gave military equipment and support to Iran, to Khomeini's Iran.
Seems unbelievable given everything you just said.
Exactly. And the sources explain this was part of the notorious Iran-Contra affair facilitated by the U.S.
Ah, okay.
Israel's logic here, it was pure realpolitik. By secretly helping Iran, their ideological enemy, they were trying to weaken Saddam Hussein's Iraq.
Who they saw as the bigger, more immediate conventional military threat. And Iraq, remember, was backed by America's Arab allies at the time.
Right. So the sources talk about these secret channels. Israel selling arms, spare parts for U.S. weapons that Iran desperately needed.
Precisely. And look, this wasn't some kind of endorsement of the Iranian Revolution. Not at all. It was a cold, hard, strategic calculation serving Israel's immediate security needs.
Enemy of my enemy again, just in a different context.
Exactly that. It really shows how geopolitics can make for strange bedfellows, even forcing bitter rivals into cooperation. But it's crucial to add, the sources also note that once this secret dealing came out,
Yeah.
it was deeply unpopular. both in Israel and with U.S. lawmakers, understandably so.
Okay, so Iran eventually emerges from that exhausting war with Iraq, and its approach to Israel shifts again, right? It becomes more maybe direct in its hostility, but using proxies.
That's the key shift. Proxy warfare becomes the main tool. Iran starts pouring money and weapons into groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza.
Setting up this new modus operandi. Hezbollah, for example, became really central in attacking Israeli forces in southern Lebanon, eventually leading to Israel's withdrawal in 2000.
A major success from Iran and Hezbollah's perspective.
And the sources describe how Iran used this network, this growing network of proxies, to build what Israel later called a ring of fire around itself.
Encircling them.
Yeah, from Lebanon and Syria up north, down to Gaza in the south, and eventually even stretching to Yemen with the Houthis, all getting Iranian weapons, money, training, basically creating this persistent threat from non-state actors.
And this proxy strategy, it let Iran project power way beyond its borders, without risking a direct fight between states. It fundamentally changed the nature of the conflict.
From conventional war to this sort of constant simmering asymmetric pressure.
Exactly. It massively increased regional instability and really set the stage for decades of this low-intensity attritional conflict, a pattern we're still seeing play out.
Okay, fast forward now to 2002. Things escalate again. A new and frankly much more dangerous dimension enters the picture: Iran's nuclear program.
The existential threat, from Israel's point of view.
Yeah, when an Iranian opposition group revealed Tehran had this secret nuclear program, Israel saw it exactly like that, an existential threat. They couldn't allow a nuclear-armed Iran.
So their response shifted too.
Right. Israel launched this campaign of, well, sabotage and targeted assassinations. Between 2010 and 2012, several top Iranian nuclear scientists were killed. Operations widely attributed, as your sources say, to Israeli intelligence.
Covert action, basically.
And maybe the biggest hit was digital, the Stuxnet cyber attack, developed jointly with the U.S., apparently.
A very sophisticated piece of malware.
Yeah, this worm just ripped through Iran's centrifuges at the Natanz facility, caused major setbacks to their program.
And what's really telling about this period, this phase, is how it marks another definite shift. The fight moves increasingly into the shadows. Intelligence ops, cyber warfare, it adds this whole new layer of complexity.
Moving beyond just proxies to direct, high-tech spying and targeted strikes.
Precisely. It's a different kind of confrontation.
Okay, let's bring the timeline right up to now. The 2020s, we've seen, I think it's fair to say, a move from those shadow wars towards more open hostilities.
Yeah, the lines are blurring.
Iran kept strengthening its proxies: Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis. They kept up the rocket attacks, the asymmetric stuff against Israel.
While Israel, on the other side.
Israel carried out hundreds of airstrikes, hitting Iranian targets, mostly in Syria and Iraq, trying to stop weapons getting through, trying to stop Iran digging in militarily.
Disrupting that supply chain and entrenchment.
But then, the big one, April 2024, Operation True Promise. Iran's first direct strike on Israeli soil, over 300 drones and missiles launched.
A huge barrage.
Now, most were intercepted, thankfully. But the act itself, launching directly from Iran at Israel, that was undeniable, a very public escalation.
And that direct strike, it absolutely signaled a pivotal moment, a major escalation. It really set the stage for potentially a much larger confrontation.
Moving beyond proxies to direct state-on-state action, even if it was limited this time.
Exactly. It shifted the dynamic again, making the whole situation even more unpredictable, raising the stakes considerably for everyone.
Wow. What an incredible journey we've just traced. I mean, from close allies, sharing military tech, sharing intelligence,
Almost unthinkable now.
to decades of this escalating ideological fight, strategic conflict, proxy wars, cyber attacks, and now direct strikes. It's just packed with these unexpected turns.
And what's truly compelling, I think, is seeing how those layers interact. Pure pragmatism at one point, then deep ideology taking over, then back to strategic calculations, often all mixed together.
Yeah.
It really reminds you that these international relationships, they're rarely simple. They often hold these deep contradictions that just defy any easy label.
Absolutely. And that really leaves us, and you listening, with a pretty provocative thought, doesn't it? When you look at this whole timeline, the alliances, the betrayals, the constant escalation, what does it suggest about where things might go next in the region? How might that old enemy of my enemy dynamic keep playing out, especially with new players, new technologies constantly changing the game?
And what are the ripple effects? The long-term implications for global stability when you have these kinds of complex, deeply rooted conflicts.
Lots to think about. We really encourage you to keep digging into these incredibly complex relationships. Thank you for joining us on the Deep Dive.